Following the panel discussion, the topic of the day is how to defend against the modern ransomware attacks. Before we get into the topic, a little about me. I'm Sanket Bhasin. I'm the Senior Product Manager for CrowdStrike based in Singapore. Over 13 plus years of experience in cybersecurity, multiple roles across Asia. We all know, and we heard during the panel discussion also, that ransomware is not slowing down. Looking at some of the facts and the figures, 2018, the top 3 ransomware attacker group, they got or they recovered the ransom payment of around $30 to $40 million. 2019, which is Spider, which is one of the e-criminal group we closely follow, our intel team closely follow. Their net business was around $100 million in that particular year. 2020, the same attacker group, Visit Spider, their net income grew 50% to $150 million. So we saw the growth from 18 to 2020. 2021 was another record year, not only from the ransom payment side of it, where we saw Indrik Spider, another e-criminal group we follow very closely. Their net business was around $40 million only from their 𝐂𝐲𝐑 ransomware campaign. Like I said, it's not only about the payment. This year we saw some different trend, like United States, first time they saw a ransomware attack in their critical infrastructure. The US gas pipeline attack was quite a scary one, by a group called Carbon Spider. Again, we follow very closely. And we have seen a very upward trend towards malware as a service or ransomware as a service, where attacker groups with their own set of unique proposition, their own expertise, they come together with a shared revenue model and makes organization life very difficult to defend against these modern attacks. Some of the upward trends again in the ransomware, what we saw in the past attack, starting with data extortion. Most of the ransomware adversary group, they create their own data leakage site, DLS sites, where they transfer the data before they encrypt it so that they can have a better impact and they can ask for more money. That's where the big game hunting ransomware is moving towards. Followed by supply chain. Again, we have seen quite a number of supply chain attacks, starting SolarWind, Kaseya ransomware. The ransomware organization, they choose the supply chain to have or to expand their horizon to have better impact across the world for their campaign and to get better money out of it. Ransomware as a service, we saw that, we heard that in the previous slide. The unique one, what we have seen of late, is the access broker. Now, access broker, I have another slide to explain in detail, but these are the organization or the criminal organization group which has the initial access. They are bot deployed across the multiple other victim machine, and they sell these initial access to other ransomware group so that the initial access for those group becomes quite easy. Understanding the e-criminal adversary operational activities, starting with initial access, followed by exploitation, exploiting the vulnerability, and monetizing the attack by deploying the ransomware. High level trend, but let's get into the initial access, because this is where we have seen a drastic change in the strategy. Introducing the access broker. Access broker, like I said, these are the criminal groups who has a dedicated access to multiple victim machines through their bot network, and they sell the credential and the device profile to other criminal groups to achieve their motivation. How they do that is they have their own infected victims through their bot network, and using that bot network, they get the credential and the device profile, which they actually sell in the underground forum, and through that they sell it to the other criminal groups. So the other criminal groups, they get the credential to the victim machines in the organization, which makes their life quite easy for the initial access. So those were the trends, some facts and the figure, but how do we best mitigate the modern ransomware attack? So let's look into the architecture and strategy. But before to that, a quick example on the ransomware attack, how really it works, starting with the initial access. Like I said, using access broker data, the ransomware attacker group, they get the initial access through the valid credential. Using that, they get into the organization, they access some critical server, get the data from those critical server, transfer to their dedicated data leakage site, and then try to delete the backup copy so that it's not very easy for organization to recover the system back or data back. And then with the help of Active Directory compromise, attacker group move around the organization to deploy ransomware and achieve the motivation. So within 5 to 7 days, they achieve what they want to achieve. So what's the best way to defend that? Starting with the signature-less approach, because we know that signature-based traditional solution failed us in the past, whether it was WannaCry, NotPetya, or 𝐻𝐨𝐼𝐧 kind of ransomware, they will definitely fail us in the future also. So the better approach would be the signature-less, starting with defending against the malware execution, if any kind of bad file, malicious file, or ransomware executes or any exploits execute. During the execution stage, CrowdStrike, using its machine learning, signature-less machine learning models, help to detect the reputation of the file and quarantine the malicious binaries or malicious file without any signature. Another engine focusing on the behavior pattern, basically to defend against the attack, where attackers are using some kind of legitimate binaries like PowerShell, WMI, command prompt, and we have seen these kind of attack, people call it as fileless, but technically these are the malware-free attack techniques. They are on surge. And how do we defend against that? Using our behavior pattern. For example, if a process executes in a memory, tries to scan the file system to understand what kind of files are stored in the machine, deletes the backup copy, and finally encrypts the system or the data. So high-level 4 steps, if you look carefully, that very well resonate with ransomware. So this is how we develop the patterns to detect credential dumping, lateral movement, privilege escalation, ransomware, and how we bring in accuracy in our detection. I will discuss that in the next slide. Example of those techniques, like this one is protecting against a malicious binary called rebel.exe, which got detected, prevented by machine learning. And we not only prevent it, but we also try to enrich wherever possible the binary or the attack or the IOC with the exact attacker group. In this case, it is a spider group called Vinci Spider. So this information clearly helps organization to understand the attack and the adversary group behind the attack. The behavior protection example, like in this particular example, attacker group was trying to delete the Windows volume shadow copy, and using the behavior pattern, we prevented against it. So this helps without any signature to prevent against the malicious binary or any kind of fileless malware-free attack. How we bring in accuracy? To bring in accuracy, there are 2 things required: the right data and right intelligence. So CrowdStrike, we collect around 7 trillion events a week by our 42+ million, or through our 42+ million endpoint sensor deployed across 200+ countries. Sending the telemetry to the cloud, and we also have our intelligence team following those APT active group, the ransomware active group, and other state-sponsored adversary groups, bringing in intelligence along with the data to accurately build the machine learning model and the behavior pattern to prevent any zero-day attack. Not only we depend upon the technology, because there can be a technology silent failure. To prevent those silent failure, we complement our technology with 24/7 human hunting. How that works? CrowdStrike sensor, like I said, deployed in the endpoint, collect the telemetry, the process telemetry, send it to the cloud, where it is being looked into by our experienced threat hunter 24/7. So it's a real-time hunting to detect any adversarial activity within the network and complement the machine learning and behavior pattern to protect any zero-day attack. But what if the adversary enters with a valid credential through access brokers and fracture the kill chain? Now, what is fracturing the kill chain? So if you look at the typical attack kill chain or a MITRE attack framework, you see that until step number 6, it is like exploiting the machine and dumping the credential. But if attacker gets a valid credential, they fracture the kill chain, start with step number 6 and move around the organization to achieve the motivation. So the best way to defend that is to understand the identity side of it and to protect the credential access and moving of the adversary using the valid credential around the organization. If you look at some of the tactics and the technique, right from the initial access to persistent privilege escalation, lateral movement, most of the techniques attackers are using valid credential. And we know that Active Directory being the key source of identity, that is where we need to have our strategy to defend or protect the identity-based attack. To achieve that, CrowdStrike bring in the zero trust architecture and help to deploy a lightweight agent to organization, domain controller, Active Directory to get the live authentication data. So we get inline into the authentication, capture all the live authentication traffic sitting in the Active Directory, help organization achieve these 3 use cases. Starting with visibility on the attack path, sitting in Active Directory, CrowdStrike helps to classify the accounts as a privileged regular user account or non-human service account. Not only that, because we are listening to the live authentication traffic, we build a baseline, the user profile, and any deviation from the baseline, we raise a red flag. And we also help to give a visibility around potential compromised password for the privileged, non-privileged user using the Have I Been Pawned database. Protecting the Active Directory from the AD attack sitting in Active Directory, we help protect attacks like golden ticket, which was the technique used in one of the techniques used in SolarWinds attack, preventing against silver ticket, pass the hash, another interactive kind of Active Directory based attacks. And the last one is bringing in conditional access. We are in line to the authentication, and this is where we help achieve the zero trust, bringing in step-up authentication for any kind of unauthorized access or block any unauthorized access where the credential is being misused. For example, if adversary trying to access any critical resources like Active Directory, file server, or any critical resources, bringing in zero trust, bringing in step-up authentication with multi-factor authentication, so adversary definitely gonna fail that. Or if adversary is using a non-human service account in a very interactive way, accessing the resources via RDP, SSH, block those kind of attacks. So conditional access using the identity. So the conclusion here is we need to beat the speed of the adversary. They are quite fast. We saw 5 to 7 days. Everything is done by the ransomware attacker group, and some of the adversaries are even faster than that. So beating them, first thing first is the architecture. A security solution is no different than the digital transformation journey where organizations are looking into the speed. So speed is the key. Cloud native solution are the best to have or to bring in the speed in any defense. Signatureless protection, like I said, signature failed us in the past. Definitely they're gonna fail us in the future. Signatureless protection with machine learning behavior pattern helps to prevent against the real zero-day attack. Complementing the signatureless detection or protection, organization should invest on the hunting part of it to detect or prevent any technology silent failure. Integrated threat intelligence. Like I said, we need to know the problem to get onto a solution. So security problem cannot be solved without the right intelligence. So I request every organization, whenever they are evaluating any security solution, evaluate a vendor who has their own intelligence, who knows the attack techniques better than anyone else. And bringing in zero trust conditional access to prevent if attackers are or attacker group fracture any kill chain or misuse any credential within the organization. So I leave you all with a beautiful quote: your ability to defeat advanced cyber attack rests almost depend entirely on your understanding of the problem. So you need to know the problem first to defend against the or to solve that problem. So with this, I wish you all a very happy weekend and a safe weekend. Have a good one. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining.